Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our council meeting for Tuesday, June 9th. Just ask that everybody shut off your devices and know that we are being live streamed. Start the meeting off with our land acknowledgement. As we gather here today, let us be reminded that the community in which we live, work, and play is situated on traditional, unceded Algonquin First Nation territory. We would like to acknowledge and thank the Anishinaabe people and express our respect for their rich history and culture. Could I get a call to order, please?
All members of council are in attendance, Your Worship.
Thank you. Item number 3 is approval of the agenda. Could I get the recommended motion, please?
That the agenda be approved as amended with the deletion of bylaw 42-2026 under agenda item 9, bylaws.
Thank you very much. Disclosure pecuniary sorry?
I require a mover and seconder for that amendment.
You just read it and move on. Moved by Councillor Comley, seconded by Deputy Mayor Tennant. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Disclosure pecuniary interest can be made now or at any point throughout the meeting by notifying the CIO this time. Item number 5 is the approval of minutes. Could I get the recommended motion, please?
That the council minutes dated May 26, 2026 be accepted as presented.
Thank you. Could I get a mover? Moved by Councillor Atkinson, seconded by Councillor Kavanagh. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Presentations, we have one with a Welch LLP Chartered Professional Accountants, our audited financial statements, and we have Umar Saeed online, I believe. Yep, we do. And so the floor, do we go to you first, Teresa, or just straight? The floor is yours, sir.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Hopefully my audio is coming in okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So today I'm pleased to present the draft audited financial statements of Corporation of the Town of Carleton Place. What I plan to do, if it's all right with you, is walk through my audit report and findings, which will summarize everything for you. And of course, at the conclusion, please feel free to ask any questions regarding the audit process or the financial statements themselves. So at this stage, we are substantially complete our audit. We require only 3 things, which are formalities: a signed management representation letter from management. And, just for context, that's important because what it does is allows us to remain independent of the financial statements. That letter really states that management is accountable for the financial statements and the preparation of those statements. By us being independent, we can provide a fair opinion on those statements. As we move down, included as part of your package are a number of adjustments. So virtually all of those adjustments have been discovered during the audit process, proposed by management. We worked through together with them, and now they have been fully reflected in the financial statements before you today. In addition, with respect to internal controls, so while we don't do a deep dive of the entity's internal controls, we do have to have an understanding of key processes related to cash, receivable, payables, etc. So we're happy to report we didn't find any significant deficiencies in internal controls today. With respect to independence, nothing has come about to compromise Welch's independence to be able to provide that fair opinion, as I mentioned earlier. There was no significant accounting policy or management estimates to highlight to you this year. We received the full cooperation of management and did not encounter any scope limitations during the course of the audit. So being auditors, we do ask for a variety of confidential information. We were free to perform all the procedures we were required to do, and we're comfortable we had everything we needed. And then finally, we want to thank Teresa and the team. It's the first year for Welch auditing the TCP. So Of course, that comes with challenges, us being new, and you guys, of course, getting used to us. But I thought it was quite a successful process. All in all, we are pleased to provide a clean opinion on the financial statements, and that concludes my portion of the presentation. But I will open it up to any questions council may have.
Thank you very much for the report. I open it up for questions or comments. And I see none. Teresa, do you have anything to add yourself?
Just thank you to the Welsh team. As Umar stated, it was a tougher year than next year will be, just because we were getting used to them and they were getting used to us. So thank you, Umar and Samantha and Megan.
Thank you.
And thank you very much, Umar. Unless you have anything else to add, I will say we'll move along to the next portion of our meeting.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Have a good evening.
You too.
All right, that moves us along to motions, of which we are going to approve what was just presented to us, which is the 2025 audited statements. Got to get the recommended motion, please.
That council approve the 2025 audited consolidated financial statements and that the statements be posted on the town's website.
Thank you very much. Could I get a mover? Moved by Councillor Hinton, seconded by Councillor Sekaspina. Any discussion on those statements? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Item number 8 is the consent report. Could I get the recommended motion, please?
That council received the consent report dated June 9th, 2026.
Can I get a mover? Moved by Councillor Comley, seconded by Councillor Kavanaugh. Is there any discussion on the consent report? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. As per the amended agenda, bylaw has been taken off, so we won't do that. And that moves us along to announcements, of which we have one official announcement, of which June 21st, 2026 is National Indigenous Peoples Day. And then I open that up to the rest of council for anything that they have to announce. Councillor Kavanaugh first.
Thank you. Actually, not a ton, but there is a ton going on. So as I've mentioned before, sign up for CP Social Scoop or follow us on Facebook or check our website, because there's always a lot more than I can cover in a meeting. But some highlights, this Saturday at Carlton Junction is the Summer Social, which is kind of like our summer kickoff party. It's from 5 to 8. There will be a Bryan Adams tribute band. And a barbecue and snacks by the Civitan, and yard games and face painting and lots of fun. So a great way to kind of kick off the summer season with the whole family. June 22nd is the second of the summer concert series at Riverside Park at 7:30 with the Carleton Place and District Community Band. And also this Saturday at 9 a.m. at the library is the Carleton Place Youth Landscape competition. So it's kind of like a one-day event. It's open to youth 7 to 18, and they come and they create art. It's one day. They have to create something inspired by the beauty of Carleton Place, and then there will be prizes for the age categories. So lots of fun and lots of ways to enjoy the weekend here in town. So have fun.
Thank you, Councillor Kavanaugh. Councillor Sekaspina.
The first thing I'd like to do is thank Jess Hansen from the Carleton Place Town Parks and Rec, Jan Watson and Sharon Sinfield from the hospice, and all the volunteers who attended and appreciated our senior expo. This was the first year we had it in Carleton Place, and next year is in Pakenham, and we get it 3 years from now. And the last thing I want to say is Saturday the 13th is the last Legion breakfast of the season until September. $13 or 2 for $25, and if you're under 6, you're free.
Thank you very much, Councillor Sekaspina. Anybody else? No. The only thing I will say is that by all accounts, even though it was a very rainy weekend, our free cycle went extremely well. There were people milling all around, and everybody that I spoke to that had stuff out got rid of most of it. And also I want to give a big thumbs up to the staff on Mighty Machines. Again, for parts of the day. It was sprinkling out, and when I was there, it was raining, and it was still jam packed, and it was very well presented. I know a lot of effort goes into an event of this magnitude, and Caitlin Bradley was kind of heading it on behalf, but I know many staff had a hand in it, and lots of volunteers. So congratulations on a great event, and thank you very much. I think it was a rounding success. And with that, we'll move along to the confirmatory bylaw. Could I get the recommended motion, please?
That bylaw 45-2026, confirmation of council proceedings for June 9th, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Atkinson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Tennant. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And for this portion of the meeting, we are moving to adjournment, and the recommended motion is that the meeting be adjourned at 6:11 p.m. Moved by Councillor Hinton, seconded by Councillor Comley. All in favor? And we are adjourned. The committee of the whole will not be so short. Deputy Mayor Tennant, off to you.
Here we go. Call to order. We're all here. Approval of the agenda. Suggested motion. There is a small alteration. Dan, could you give me the new motion, please?
That the agenda be accepted as amended with the addition of communication 137051 under agenda item 6, reports.
Great. Thank you for me. Mover and seconder for that amended. Sarah and Dana. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Moving on. Are there any declarations or conflicts? Yes.
Oh, let me get to it. Sorry. I have a declaration to make on item number 9 with the development charges reduction program. I've actually put a call out to our legal advisor, and I have not heard back, so I'm just going to err on the side of caution. I'm presently in the middle of buying a house, and so because of that, I could have a perceived gain or loss as it comes to the reduction. So I will stay out of that conversation. Thank you.
I'm going to say that's 6G. The information listings.
Correct. Yes. Oh, sorry. Yeah. 6G. Correct.
Okay. Noted. Thank you. And moving on. Any other conflicts? No. Good. Great. Okay. Moving on. Minutes to be approved and received. The suggested motion, the committee of the whole minutes dated May 26, 2026 be accepted as presented. Mover and seconder, please. Moved by Mayor and Sarah. All in favor? And the minutes are accepted. We have a presentation from Tina Chitsand from Watson and Associates Economists Limited about our development fees and charges study phase 2 results. So we'll go right to that if we're ready. There we go. Perfect. Go ahead, Tina. Thank you.
Thank you and good evening. Just going to share my screen here. Bear with me a minute. And just to confirm, are you able to see my screen okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And it's the presentation, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so thank you again for inviting us this evening just to speak about this work that we've been, this project that we've been undertaking and working with staff. And for some background, the town received funding through the Housing Accelerator program, and there were 2 components to this project. So in phase 1, that looked really at understanding the existing development-related fees, reviewing and creating an administrative framework for those fees. And then phase 2 work was really around validating the costs that are supposed to be recovered from different fees, understanding cost recovery, and then looking at some potential incentives. And then in terms of the fees that were being looked at, that was really planning application fees, building permit fees, and then engineering review and inspection fees. So as I previously stated, very high level, our objectives for this phase of the assignment were to substantiate, so validate that the full cost of delivering those services, so reviewing planning applications, getting those approvals, building permit fees, building permits, and then engineering review. And then recommending if required, any updates to the fee structure or fees to improve both cost recovery and just making sure it's aligned with the objectives of the town. And then looking in phase one, there were some discounts and reductions that were proposed. So looking at how those could be operationalized as part of this phase two work. In terms of the approach that we look at, there's just some overall, I guess, comments here where when we're looking at fee design with development fees, it's a balance between cost recovery as well as having an understanding of the impacts of whatever decisions that are made will be on affordability and whatever various objectives that may be there. And then there's also the concern where sometimes, depending on the level of fees that are set, it could trigger changes in behavior. So a classic example that most can relate to is, for example, if you have deck permits, fees that are set too high may incent behavior where people will not apply for a deck permit and instead, build the deck and then seek forgiveness after, which you don't want because you want people to go through proper approval. So it's a balancing act of understanding what the costs are, what cost recovery is, as well as ensuring that you're not inadvertently triggering or incenting the wrong kind of behaviors. And then we'd also say these services are in a continuum. So if you think about certain things, maybe have a high level community benefit. So perhaps there'll be some like an acceptance of lower cost recovery with more subsidization from, say, property taxes, than if you have a service that really benefits the individual more. So if we think about planning, engineering, building permit services, they generally tend to have a bit more higher individual benefit, which may justify higher cost recovery levels. Then any fees recommendations we've made, we also look at your comparators just to make sure that it is within that context and aligned with what other municipalities charge for similar service. From a legislation perspective, there's a number of rules that govern these fees. So for instance, planning application fees are governed under the Planning Act. And the Planning Act is very specific about how the fees are set. So it's clear that the fees should only recover the anticipated cost of processing by type of application. So it doesn't say the actual, but anticipated. And then the other thing is to kind of have in mind is that when those fees are paid at any point, once the bylaw is in place, the fees can be paid under protest of an appeal being lodged to the OLT, so Ontario Land Tribunal. Currently, there's no public process required when setting planning application fees. And the second component were the building permit fees, and these are governed under the Building Code Act. And what's different here is that the legislation just specifies that the fees must not exceed the anticipated reasonable cost of administering and enforcing the act. So it doesn't specify by type, which is the language we just looked at when we were talking about planning application fees. And then it also gives room to have both recovery of direct and indirect costs and capital costs. The other piece is that with the Building Code Act, it allows for municipalities to establish a reserve fund where you save some money and set it aside so that if there's a downturn in building activity, you can hang on to your staff and hold on to them instead of having to let go or fund it all from taxes. And then it, whereas Planning Act does not allow the same system. Lastly, the third type are the engineering review and inspection fees, which are governed under the Municipal Act. And that's a pretty broad act in terms of the room it allows for municipalities to set those fees. The one thing that the act has been clear, as well as case law, is that the fee needs to be tied to service, so it cannot be a tax. Okay, so very high level again, this is the methodology that we utilize to undertake this phase two work, which is an activity-based costing methodology. So if we start on the far right, there's the lighter green circles that speak to user fee costing categories. What we worked with staff was identifying these units of activities. And then from there, you've got staff from multiple different departments who then tell you how much time it takes to do the various components of their work. So that gives us the direct cost, which is the second column of circles that we have. And then from there, we then layered as well things like overhead costs. So you've got, if you have staff in planning, for example, they also receive support from HR and finance, et cetera, and overall administration. So we layered those costs and the support costs in order to get that full cost, which is direct, indirect costs, as well as capital costs. So from that activity of looking at the minutes that it takes, so the time it takes to process one type of application, then we applied the volumes that you see on an annual basis on average to get a sense of how the staff are utilized in general. So what we're showing on this chart, the far one on the left, is that if we look by fee type, we've got those three broad categories: planning, engineering, and building. What we see is for the town to process the levels that you normally do, that takes about 8.24 full-time equivalents every year, about 4.6 for building permit applications, 1.87 for planning, and 1.73 for engineering. The chart on the right is now giving that same information, but now what we've done is looked at it from a department perspective. What you'll find is a lot of times the work is not just done by people in one department. So for example, with these application types that we're looking at, you've got planning staff, building staff, engineering staff, public works, etc. So what the chart on the right is giving is a breakdown of how the staff, those 8.2 full-time equivalents, break down across departments. Another comment I will make is that while we may show this utilization of this percentages, we've only isolated the staff effort related to these applications. So anything else that they're doing at the town that is not related to planning, building, or engineering is not captured in what we're presenting here today. So in terms of full cost, right now, the modeling shows that it costs the town about 1.3 million in direct costs every year in order to provide these services, so process these applications. And then if we look, indirect costs account for about 276,000, with capital costs being a further about 31,000. So all in all, it's about 1.6 million for planning, building, and engineering activities. And then now just drilling down into the services themselves, what we have here starting with planning is you'll see that there's a list of categories that we have. There's OPA and DPA, so official plan amendments and development permit amendments. And those are the types, because the legislation requires for it to be done by type. Then we show the total cost. In the middle columns, what you see is the modeled annual revenue and cost recovery, and then what the proposed fees will do. So if we're looking just in aggregate, we're saying planning costs about a little under 400,000 a year. And then in terms of revenue, it works out to about a little under 280,000, so 70% cost recovery. In assessing that, you will also see that if you look in the surplus and deficit under current fees, that some fees are recovering less than the cost, so it's a deficit, and then others are surplus, for example, part lot control. So based on the legislation, the recommendations are now to say, okay, maintain the current fee schedule or structure, because that's working generally well, but to incorporate the requirements of the legislation, part lot control fees, that's a type of application, are recovering more than the full cost. So those have been recommended to come down towards the full cost. And then the other categories such as OPA and DPA, deeming bylaws, and some others have been proposed to be increased closer to full cost or just around full cost. And then you'll also see that there's some that are still, even under the proposed structure, are still in a deficit position. And the reason is that when you compare those, like the cost to the proposed, that would put the town's fees sometimes way over what everybody else is charging. And the difficulty is a lot of municipalities are making these policy decisions and they may not always disclose their costs, but what you do see are their fees. So they may also be charging less than full cost, which we won't necessarily see if it's not public. Then the second group of fees are the engineering costs, and what we, similar structure in terms of the presentation is that the costs are about 288,000 a year with revenue of around 97,000, so 33% cost recovery. And then the recommended fees would improve that cost recovery level to about 65%. Again, really with consideration of that affordability and comparative fees and comparative municipalities that guided that recommendation. And then lastly, we've got the building permit fees. And these, with building permit fees, I will remind that with the building permit fees, there's the provision that allows to have funds that go into a reserve fund. So when we look at the total cost, you'll see that about 871,000 with revenue that exceeds, so that there's a recovery of 107%. The proposed fees bump that up to about 109%, and the changes that are proposed are 2.2% on all of the fees, and then 5% on new house construction, except the missing middle units, which are those small bungalows and bungalow towns that are about 140 square meters, which was a type of priority housing form that was determined in phase 1. So just again, for context as to why the building permit fees are being projected to go from 107% cost recovery to 109%. If we're looking at the chart on the left and we maintain the current fees with the projected volumes, what that's showing is that you'll see there's a divergence between the reserve fund target and the reserve fund balance, where the balance is actually dropping to about 1.7 times the direct cost, when the town's target is 3 times the direct cost. So that's to try to close that gap and make sure they're staying in sync. That's where the recommendations come in to say, increase the 2.2% and then have some inflationary adjustments going forward. So if you look on the chart on the right, you will see that those two lines, the target and the balance, are moving in tandem. And then even at 2035, they basically intersect. They're at the same point. And then the other piece of the analysis was doing a comparative survey, so looking at costs in other municipalities that are comparatives to the town. And then one thing I'll say is that for these impacts, we've included all development costs, so including development charges, planning fees, building fees, engineering fees, to give that full picture of what the costs would be in different places. And we've done that for large subdivision and big box retail. And then we've also shown a comparison for deck permits, as that's one that I think often you want to keep an eye on when doing anything with building permits. So if we're looking at a residential subdivision for a unit that's about 158 square meters, what we see is that the town's relative position to its peers would not change even with these recommended fees. Similarly, if we look at big box retail, again, you'll see that the town, yes, it's shifting a little bit up towards the left of the chart. However, its positioning compared to the peers remains the same. And that picture is maintained when we look at deck permits. Again, the current fee, 2.2% increase to the proposed fee, would maintain the town's relative position. Then just in terms of next steps, would be approval of the phase 2 report, then approving the recommended fees. And then the other piece would be, before implementing the building permit fees, would be to hold a statutory public meeting and then approve those building permit fees after the statutory public meeting. So that concludes my prepared remarks, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Great, thank you for that. Are there any questions or comments? I think we're, yeah. Okay, we have a comment.
It's actually a question to Diane. Second part of this is that we direct staff to implement the recommendations of phase 2 for the 2027 budget. So we're approving to push it ahead to the budget process. The council of the day would then either agree to increase those fees at the budget time or not, as the case may be.
That's correct.
Double checking
Which
that we're
means
not.
that it won't actually be in place probably for January 1st, given that we have an election in October.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you for the presentation. We'll move on with the rest of the agenda here. We're on to reports now, and Report A, Development Fee and Charges Review with Nikki Dwyer, Director of Developmental Services. Suggested motion that Council accept the Comprehensive Development Fees and Charges Study Phase 2 by Watson and Associates Economists Limited, dated May 25th, 2026, and that Council direct staff to implement the recommendations of Phase 2 of the study in the 2027 budget. Could I have a mover and seconder, please? Jeff and Mark. Go ahead, Nikki.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This really is just a formality based on Tina's earlier presentation. If council does have any questions for staff, I'm happy to answer them, but this is just the action to receive the report, and we will advance it for further discussions later in the year as part of next year's budget.
Round two, any questions? Jeff.
Just a clarification on the question asked by the mayor earlier. So by approving this, what we'll be doing is asking staff to prepare this as an option for consideration at budget time for the next council at the end of the year, or would this be approving the implementation of the recommendations, period? Because there's going to be some discretion with respect to budget at the end of the year. I'd just like to know what I'm directing staff to do.
For sure. Thank you. Through the chair. My intention in writing the recommendation tonight was for you to receive the report, and then we will bring forward the separate changes to the fees and charges bylaw, as we always do as part of the budget. Ultimately, at that time, should you choose to make adjustments, then you can do so. Although, as Tina has illustrated tonight, there is quite a process to being able to justify your planning and your building fees. So if we're going to play with those numbers, then we need to be able to compensate it elsewhere within those applications to be able to show justification. Engineering is a little bit more flexible, but on the other two, there is some legislation that we do need to follow.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Nikki. Moving on to item B, 2026 financial report to May 31st, 2026 with Teresa McConkey, the treasurer. Suggested motion that council receive the financial report from the treasurer to May 31st, 2026 as information. Could I have a mover and seconder, please? Dana and Sarah. Go ahead, Teresa.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So as of May 31st, the year is about 42% finished. And we are pretty much exactly where I would expect we would be. I have done some analysis on significant variances, which I would consider 10% greater or less than that 42%. So just things like under administration, in revenue, we have already processed full revenue for the full half of a year. And then environmental and wastewater billing is only the first quarter, so that's a little lower. You can see the rest of the explanations there, and I just take questions, I guess, if you have them.
Does anybody have them? All in favor? And carried. Moving right along. Thank you, Teresa. Oh, sorry, you're there again. Item C, proposed changes to the travel and expense policy. Suggested motion that council approve the recommended change to the travel and expense policy as outlined in the report by the treasurer dated June 9th, 2026. Could I have a mover and seconder, please? Mark and Sarah. Go ahead, Teresa.
Thank you again. We've had a couple of requests to make a revision to the travel and expense policy with regard to the limit of 500 kilometers for trips that extend over multiple days. So currently, if you traveled 750 kilometers, you would only get paid for the 5. That was designed to encourage people to rent cars and to limit the town's costs. But overall, there were 7 claims in 2025. And by changing this to full reimbursement for the kilometers as per the policy, it would cost the town $500. We did review this with the council compensation working group, as this does apply to council as well. And they were in support. So there was some other minor changes, wording, and we removed things that were in other policies. For example, per diems for council was in here, but we have a council remuneration policy that deals with that too. So we removed it from this one and left it in the other one.
I guess the vast majority of these instances, this wouldn't come up very often. No. Any questions or comments about this policy? All in favor with the suggested motion? That's carried. Thank you. Moving on to item D, Carenbeck Child Care Center expansion with Jennifer Berry, Strategic Operations Admin for Carleton Place Child Care Services. Suggested motion that council receive the report by Child Care Services Operation Manager on the expansion of the Carenbeck Child Care Center dated June 9th, 2026 as information, and that council approve the use of the child care reserves to fund the expansion if required, if the town is unsuccessful in the grant application to the county. Go ahead, Diane.
So, Mr. Chair, we have some new information that I think if I have an amended motion for after, so if we could just not move and second, hear the report from staff and the amended financials from the treasurer, and then I could read the amended motion if that's okay.
That's perfect. Go ahead, Jen.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Randall and members of council. We're presenting an overview of our proposed expansion for Carleton Place School Age Services and ask for access to our reserves in the event we are unsuccessful at securing county funding. The opportunity for expansion developed with the recent vacancy of the former TR Leger school space within Carenbeck Community Center. Recently, Carleton Place School Age Services occupies approximately 14,154 square feet at Carenbeck Community Center. The facility provides before and after school programming for kindergarten and school-age children, as well as a small nursery school program. The gymnasium, which is approximately 5,000 square feet, would continue to serve as a shared space for both childcare and community programming. The former TR Leger space, which is approximately 11,635 square feet, became vacant on September the 1st, 2025. This situation created an opportunity to increase childcare openings by roughly 80%, supporting the growing childcare needs in our community. Expansion would support increased before and after school programming. It would allow for the introduction of 48 preschool full-day spaces, creating more early learning opportunities for local families. Additional licensed childcare spaces would help address demand and reduce pressure on the centralized waitlist. Families would benefit from continuity of care, as children would be able to remain in a familiar environment as they grow and transition into school. Access to childcare is a key factor in attracting and retaining residents and supporting population growth. Reliable childcare enables more parents to return to work, pursue education, increase working hours, and contribute to the local economy. Local businesses benefit through increased employee attendance and workforce stability. Expanded childcare also supports greater workforce participation among women and equity-seeking groups. Early childhood education remains one of the strongest long-term investments communities can make. Preschool programming supports school readiness. Children gain social emotional skills, communication abilities, early literacy, and experience structured learning routines. Expanding capacity would also improve transitions into kindergarten programming. In recent years, limited space at Carenbeck has resulted in families being turned away during transition from preschool at Francis to before and after programs at Carenbeck. Some of the affected families would have had children enrolled with us since infancy. Now we have to terminate care because we don't have space. Expansion would help retain these families within the system and better meet community needs. This expansion proposal represents an efficient use of an existing town-owned facility. It responds directly to community growth and childcare demand, offering 48 new full-day preschool spaces, 39 additional kindergarten spaces, 45 additional school-age spaces, plus a permanent location for the 30 school-age spaces currently on our license that we've been unable to fill due to lack of space. This expansion would strengthen service delivery, support families and economic development, and enhance long-term sustainability of Carleton Place Child Care Services. This concludes my overview. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Jen. Anyone have any questions? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Teresa.
Sorry, we received additional funding information after this report was tabled for the agenda. The county, there's a proposal going forward to county council tomorrow night that would allocate CWELC funding in the amount of 557,356, as well as local priorities funding in 500,899. So what this means is the original report requested 116,900 from DCs, and then funding of 1,052,100 from the child care reserves, which currently sit at about 2.9 million. So certainly there's enough room there. But this new funding, if it's approved at the county tomorrow night, would mean that our DC funding would reduce to 110,745, and we would need to use nothing out of our reserves. So really good news. And we'll keep our fingers crossed for approval tomorrow night.
We will speak in favor. Sorry, any other questions now that we have all the information or comments? Go ahead, Mayor Reno. No, we had just Teresa, while you stepped out, was given the financial picture with the new information from the county.
My apologies. So I believe that was information from the county. Was that? So I did have a conversation. So first off, I wanted to acknowledge the fact that how last minute this was, and that putting together this proposal was probably not the easiest thing because it was asked of you quickly. So thank you very much for doing that. And I talked to the county social services. Everything seems to be that will be made whole at the end of the year, we're hoping, but I'm confident in that after the discussion I had with social services, and if any other folks had questions about that, I believe we'll be okay by the end of the year. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Diane, did you have a motion?
So that council received the report by the Child Care Services Operations Manager and the expansion of the Carenbeck Child Care Center dated June 9th, 2026 as information, and that council approved the updated project budget subject to receiving grant funding from the county.
Jeff and Dana, any questions or comments based on the new motion? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much, Jen. Lost my place. Sorry, 1 second. E, ice rental and pool fees with Joanne Henderson, Manager of Rec and Culture. Suggested motion that council approve amending the town's fees and charges bylaw by 3.5% for ice rental rates and 2.5% for pool fees for the periods September 7th, 2026 to September 5th, 2027, and to reinstate the credit card recovery fee as outlined in the Manager of Recreation and Culture's report dated June 9th, 2026. Could I have a mover and seconder for that one? Mark and Sarah. Go ahead, Joanne.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Service Delivery Working Group met on May 28th to discuss the proposed increases to ice rental and pool rental rates. After a lengthy discussion, the Service Delivery Group is recommending a 2.5% increase for the pool fees and a 3.5% increase for ice rental rates. What we tried to do during this working group discussion was come up with a target tax subsidy for the rental rates. Teresa also has provided 3 different options so that council could have a look just to see what further increase would result in for the tax subsidies, and they are included in the report. We also want to find a funding formula moving forward so that we can move forward with rates and try to meet a certain tax subsidy each year. And that's something that we'll work towards in 2026. So in 2027, we'll come up with some type of a subsidy formula to determine the rates in the future. So I would be happy to take any questions. Oh, sorry. The recovery fee, in 2025 to 2026 fees were amended to include the removal of the credit card recovery fee from the recreation rates. We're recommending that that be reinstated as it is a significant expense for credit card use for the fees, and it further goes against what we need to recover for our tax subsidy.
Great, thank you. And I want to thank everyone involved for fleshing out the way we make these decisions on this particular item. I know we've had some conversations about these in the past, and I think the way we're doing it now, or the direction we're going, is a good and very transparent and very good for explaining why we do these things to the public. Could I have sorry, any questions or comments? Sorry, Linda.
Thank you, Joanne, for this report. I really appreciate it. I know I'm still going to get complaints from seniors on the pool, and I'm still going to get complaints about ice. But I want to remind everybody that in Ottawa, it's 3% increase. Perth is keeping theirs. Smith Falls has no pool. For the ice, Smith Falls, no change. Perth, inflation, and Ottawa, 3%. But every few months, we get bills to take care of the pool and to take care of the ice. And if we don't do these things, you're not going to have these amenities. So we do the best we can, so thank you.
Great, thank you, Linda. Any other questions? Dana?
Yes, thank you for this. I'm glad to see we are putting in a formula and a way to do this instead of just a standard rate year after year. When it comes to the credit card payment, if residents are booking online, is there any other option besides a credit card for them to make payment without those fees?
No, there isn't.
Great, thank you. Mayor Randall.
Sorry, Councillor Conley, you're referring to booking online for pool or arena use? Are we currently doing that? Thank you. And on top of that, again, I'm just going to echo what everybody's saying, is that having a formula and something we can, attach the increase to, where we can show people why we're doing the increases. We're already, as Linda alluded to, upgrading the pool when needed as the parts of it fall apart, as things that get older do. And so those are already transparent, and we highlight those when they come up. But now this is just one more way to be a little bit more transparent and show folks why those increases are coming. And it's important that we as council are transparent to our constituents and keep them abreast of why we're making these decisions. So I applaud that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Jeff?
Just a question. I'll echo what everyone else has said about the development of the formula, but I have a question about the formula. Is there a target rate of tax subsidization that you have in mind at this current point in time? I see from the report it's sitting around 27% or 26% for the arena. I can't remember what it is for the pool, but I'm wondering if there's sort of a target in mind that we move towards, or are we aiming to sit around the mid-20s, sometime we're between a quarter and a third of a subsidy, of taxpayer subsidy.
So the working group discussed that, and the recommendation from them is to maintain the current subsidy. So that's what these proposed rates will do, with the caveat that maybe we would set different subsidies next year.
Thanks.
Great. Sarah?
Just a question, and maybe I've missed it here. What is the lost revenue from the credit card recovery fee? Do we know off the top of our heads?
I'm not positive at this point, but I know at the pool specifically, it would run around $8,000 to $10,000 for credit card use and banking charges.
Dana, go ahead.
Just to follow up to my other question, does our software have the ability to take any other payment? Like, can we do bank card payment through our software, or is just credit card?
I don't think the current software does. However, our IT manager, Blake, and rec staff are currently looking for a booking software. And so we can definitely make that part of the specs. I don't know if it is in there as such. It is in there already. So yes.
So we're working towards a solution. We're just not there yet. Okay, that's okay. Any other, oh, Teresa, go ahead.
And we take the 2.4% across the town for use of credit cards everywhere except right now for rec fees under $1,000. So it would be consistent to drop those, to put those back in place, excuse me.
Consistency is good. Any other no, Mark, go ahead.
Sorry, not so much a question, but I understand the arenas and the pools provide, community health, recreation, and a lot of benefits to the community, and that's why we need to subsidize a user fee program with it. These numbers are all over the map. I've done a pile of research trying, as part of the working group, come up, well, what should the subsidy number be? And it is all over the place. So when we sat down and tried to look at long-term where we want it to be, it seems to be we're doing a great job at where we're at with giving great benefit to the community and still keeping our pricing and our increases at a respectable, fair level. So I'm fully in favor of the report with it. I'm a little concerned hearing about the credit cards now, where there's no option. We're encouraging residents to book online. That's where we've pushed this council since day one, was to make it easier to use our facilities and to have them online booking. And it seems right now, and again, I'm completely out, but it's almost punitive until we get another system for online bookings. And I'm wondering, is there a way for online bookings that we don't charge that credit card fee until we have something else in place? Because it's completely counteractive to what we've tried to achieve. And I don't want to penalize the residents for online booking, which is what we have as a council directed them to do. So kind of a loaded question, I apologize, but is there something we can look at until we have another paying mechanism in place to encourage online bookings?
So maybe that's something that we add, that staff maybe look at some other options in the interim, if that's something we can possibly come back with or give some ideas. Joanne?
I just wanted to clarify. So are you suggesting that you would like just the credit card recovery fee be waived for online bookings? But if someone comes into the administration offices at the pool or the arena to pay for a nice rental, they would still be charged the 2.4% because they can use debit or they can pay by cash or whatnot. Okay.
Sorry, yeah, that's exactly what I'm asking.
Fair across the board, I think, is what we're looking for, right? Everybody gets the same. Yeah. Or is it a convenience fee?
We're encouraging our residents to book online. The only way we can pay online is with a credit card. Well, then I won't book online. I'll just go down and pay it on a debit card.
Dan?
We currently accept payments for other town fees by credit card. It means somebody may not have to take time off work to come into the office when they're working in the city to make a payment. It's a convenience fee. And we find that people, if they want the convenience fee, they will pay it. And if they're not interested, then they'll find a way of coming in person and paying.
So what I may recommend is that if councillors want to explore this further, they have discussions with staff and then maybe something develops from there later. Go ahead, Dewey.
So are you suggesting we split this in two parts, approve the fee and defer the other? Okay. On top of that, when did we start the discussion or the implementation or the attempted implementation of this new system that we have for booking? To me, am I wrong in saying that this has been taking a little bit longer than we might have expected?
It has. The original idea of creating our own online portal has worked really well for some things, events and a bunch of other things I can't remember, but basic things. So when it gets complicated, like year-round ice rental, for example, that system is not going to serve us well, I think. So the project team went back to the original idea of finding software that is already created, that has these functions already built in. And they I don't know if you've released an RFP yet, but I know that the specs are ready to go.
So as a follow-up, then at the present time, we don't have a date that we expect this to be. I mean, based on what I'm hearing, it would behoove us to get that system in place as soon as possible. So it would give our users additional options and not have this fee that's attached to it. But based on what you're saying, we do not have a date that we expect this to be completed by.
Diana?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. We are looking to prioritize this as one of the main IT priorities within the Community Services Department. That being said, Teresa is correct. We are just completing work on refining the final specifications before we go to procurement. And I anticipate at most 8 to 12 months, but again, I need to confirm that with IT services staff. We would be happy to come back with information to council after the meeting. We could provide an update.
Thank you. That works.
That would be fantastic. Thank you. Any other questions and comments for the suggested motion on the floor? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Good discussion.
There was one added and then Joanne would be finished. It's report number 9, the commemorative naming, if you don't mind.
Yeah, that works. Let me just dig it up here. Hold on. Oh, it's here. Perfect. I'm on the website. So let's go to item I, 6I, commemorative naming Carleton Junction Sports Pad with Joanne, Manager of Rec and Culture. Suggested motion that council identify the outdoor sports pad at Carleton Junction for naming. Could I have a mover and seconder, please? Toby and Jeff. Go ahead, Joanne.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The commemorative naming policy states that a park facility or asset must be identified for naming before applications can be considered. The policy was implemented to provide clear guidance into the commemorative naming of parks, facilities, and assets in the town of Carleton Place. It ensures there's consistency and fairness in the naming of parks, facilities, and assets, and key criteria are met to determine the appropriateness of the proposed commemorative name and a proper and transparent approval process. At this time, we're asking that the outdoor sports pad at Carleton Junction be identified for naming. Once the sports pad is identified for naming, we will start the naming process, which includes advertising for naming applications, which have to be submitted to the clerk. And then following receiving all the applications, they come and were reviewed by the clerk, myself, as well as the Director of Community Services. Once we have summarized all the comments and reviewed all the applications, we would provide an update to council at a closed meeting of the recommended commemorative name. The only financial implication for this process would be probably approximately $1,500 to provide some sort of sign or plaque at the facility to recognize the commemorative name that has been chosen. So I would be happy to take questions.
Great. Thanks, Joanne. Any questions or comments? Sarah.
I love a commemorative name. Question though, as a sports pad was a cumulative community effort to construct, and there's signage there honoring the donations and sponsors, is there any, like, I don't know if in previous naming things, we've had that kind of situation where we've named something that has been constructed from a group of community businesses and partners, and I just don't know, is that okay to keep their signage up there and honor them at the same time as honoring the name? And what's your agreement with our sponsors, I guess?
Yes, they would remain at the sports pad. It would just be the naming of the sports pad. Obviously, all the financial contributions and work that went into making the community sports pad will remain. It's an important asset in our community, and it needs to be recognized at all times.
Great, thank you for that. Any other questions or comments? All in favor of the changes? And that's carried. Thank you, Joanne. Moving right along here, back to my spot. If tech's looking at things, like if IT's looking, is there a way for me on the Zoom screen to know whose mic is on or off? Because that's why I keep doing this. I'm looking for the red. Just so I don't have to, I'm trying to go beyond the monitor and it gets me really close to my camera. I look like I'm trying to zoom into my face.
See when it's red.
Well, that requires people to do some work. I don't know if anybody can manage that. We're on to item F, 2026-2030, the future council term remuneration with Laura Skull, manager of HR. Suggested motion that council amend the elected officials remuneration bylaw effective the 2026-2030 term to include the following: implementation of OMERS participation for members of council under standard plan terms. Also, item 1, implementing the proposed honoraria for the mayor, deputy mayor, and councillors effective November 15th, 2026. And the third item 1, the introduction of a benefits choice model allowing members of council to elect either participation in the town's benefit plan or 10% of their honorarium in lieu of benefits and capped at $5,000, treated as a taxable, non-pensionable cash allowance. Could I have a mover and seconder, please? Mark and Sarah. Go ahead, Laura.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The purpose of this report is to present the findings of the Council Remuneration Review Working Group and to outline the recommended remuneration structure for the 2026 to 2030 Council term. Our goal was to ensure that Council remuneration remains aligned with comparator municipalities, reflects sector practices, and supports the recruitment and retention of elected officials. The working group met in May and reviewed the full comparator data set, sector practices, Council's own submission, internal equity considerations, and retirement benefit models. The recommendations before you reflect the full review. Based on the 2025 data set, Carleton Place was aligned at the median for councillors and above median for the mayor and deputy mayor. Since then, several comparator municipalities have passed new bylaws for the 2026 to 2030 term with increases in the 20 to 30% range. Those updates shift comparator norms upward, and the proposed adjustments keep Carleton Place aligned with both the original data set and the new emerging sector standards. The proposed honoraria reflect comparator alignment and the town's 2.5% COLA for 2027. These adjustments bring all roles to the expected range for a high-growth municipality. OMERS is the only structured retirement benefit that appears consistently across our comparator municipalities. Aligning council with OMERS under standard plans under standard plan terms mirrors what we already provide to staff and is consistent with sector practice. Following the committee review, staff developed a benefits choice model to address the fact that benefit usage varies significantly among members. The model allows members to choose either the town's benefit plan or a 10% in lieu amount capped at $5,000 to maintain equity. The in lieu amount is treated as a taxable non-pensionable allowance under OMERS, and this approach was socialized with all 3 councillors at the review committee who expressed support. There are 3 financial components to the report: the change in honoraria from the 2023 bylaw to the proposed 2027 rates, the partial year impact in 2026, and the full year impact beginning in 2027. The 2026 partial year impact is absorbed within the existing budget, and the full year 2027 cost reflects OMERS contributions, updated honoraria, and statutory contributions. You'll notice that the percentage increases differ by role. That's intentional and reflects each role's position within the comparator group. Councillors required a larger adjustment to reach the median, while the mayor was already aligned. Equalizing percentages would actually move us away from market alignment. In summary, the recommendations before you reflect the comparator alignment, sector practice, and a responsible, transparent approach to council remuneration for the next term. We are recommending OMER's participation under standard plan terms, updated honoraria effective November 15th, 2026, and a benefits choice model with a $5,000 cap. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Great, thank you. And are there questions or comments? Jeff?
Yeah, thanks for the report. I think it's fair to say that what you're looking at here in terms of an increase in total compensation for councillors, well, the next term of council is effectively the bringing the councillors into the OMERS program, consistent with what other municipal employees enjoy, and the COLA increase that we're going to get anyways for the honoraria, and that's the cost to the town, is really fundamentally bringing council members into the OMERS plan. Is that correct? Thank you.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Mayor Randall.
Yeah, thank you very much for the report, Laura. And the OMERS part for us as a council, I think is it's the most important part in here is we're giving back to our communities, taking away time from our families, our businesses, and other things that we might do. And we're not asking to go above and beyond what other municipalities that surround us actually do. So we're actually just getting kind of caught up to our neighboring brothers and sisters in our fellow municipalities. So I think moving forward, the next council, whoever they may be, will be aligned with fellow municipalities, which is I think is fair. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Nothing more? Okay. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We are Development Charge Reduction Program with Diane as Chief Administrative Officer. Suggested motion that council approve proceeding with option blank with respect to the Development Charge Reduction Program as outlined in the CEO's report dated June 9th, 2026. Could I have a mover? Oh, nope.
Mr. Chair, I recommend hearing the report and then having a discussion and then choosing the option based on the discussion.
That sounds great. So go ahead with the report. Stop.
Just reiterating that I am sitting this one out.
Yeah. The mayor is declared on this one, so he's shutting off his mic and walking away. Go ahead, Diane. Limping away.
Okay, so on June 1st of this year, the Development Charge Reduction Program, which is an application-based program to provide up to $8.8 billion in federal and provincial capital funding to enable Ontario municipalities to unlock more housing supply by providing partial relief to their builder community from development charges for a period of 3 years and prioritizing investments in housing enabling infrastructure over 10 years. In order to consider submitting an application, the town must commit to reduce its DC rates across the board for all residential development types from their level as of March 30th, 2026, and maintain the reduction for a period of 3 years. The key components are as follows. There will be only one intake for funds for all the $8.8 billion, and funds will be distributed over a period of 10 years. Projects must be shovel-ready with construction commencing prior to July 31st, 2030 and completed by October 31st, 2035. The municipality cost share must be a minimum of 10%. DC reduction must be a minimum of 30%, and they're recommending somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 50, though 50 is better. Anything better than that is what they're looking for residential, and remain in place for 3 years, and again would be retroactive to March 30th, 2026. Applications are going to be assessed on the following criteria: the scale of the development charge reduction, the number of homes expected to result from the relief, the municipality's financial contribution, and shovel readiness. Based on a review of all information readily available, the program is likely to favor municipalities with higher development charges and higher levels of growth, as the DC reductions will have a larger impact. In simple terms, this grant program provides a shift in funding growth-related projects from development charges onto the tax base or rate base, being water and wastewater fees, with the federal and provincial government offsetting a majority of that shift. The funding intake is a competitive process. Funding approval is not guaranteed. The province reserves the right to deny any application, regardless of whether all criteria have been met, and to reduce or otherwise adjust the funding amount for approved applications. Applications that provide for greater DC rate reductions, i.e. more than the 30 to 50%, and higher municipal infrastructure project costs, being more than the 10%, would be eligible to receive higher development charge funding to support more cost-shared municipal infrastructure projects. Housing enabling infrastructure projects would be prioritized over ones that are deemed to be community infrastructure projects. And the housing enabling ones are deemed to be more things like water, wastewater, stormwater, roads, and transit infrastructure, with community infrastructure projects being things like that help support the development of complete communities, fire stations, police stations, community centers, libraries, and cultural centers. The timeline for the funding program is very short. To today, the application is not even posted in the provincial government system, though we have seen a draft of it. The applications are due by 10 a.m. on Friday, June the 19th, and it's expected that a transfer payment agreement must be executed before August 15th, 2026. Again, applications are going to be assessed on that, how much you are giving up in your DCs, the number of housing units that are going to be enabled by DC relief provided to builders, and the projects that support housing enabling infrastructure and the number of housing units enabled by the project will be prioritized for funding. On the amount of municipal contribution for each eligible project, with the minimum being 10%, applications that provide for more municipal contributions, so greater than that 10% contribution, would be eligible for higher program funding. And program funding is up to 90%, but not guaranteed. Ineligible project costs, such as soft costs related to design, engineering, legal fees, permitting, and insurance, overhead costs, and taxes would not count, would count towards the municipal contribution amounts for assessment purposes only of the application. To be clear, based on the summary of the program guidelines noted above, the town would not be eligible to apply for funding to offset the cost of our largest projects in our development charges background study, that being the town's water and wastewater treatment plants, as both projects are already under construction and as funding for the wastewater treatment plant was already obtained under the Housing Enabling Water System Fund. So this discounts both of those large projects. Staff have reviewed all of the outstanding projects in the town's current DC background study, which are appended to the report. There is the potential to reduce development charges by 42.2%, which will impact 50.8 million of growth-related capital projects identified in the background study, if council agrees to reduce DCs by this percentage. If agreed to, for any projects the town would not receive development charge rebate funding for, the town would either have to cancel the identified DC-related growth projects altogether, or fund them from taxation or from water reserves. If we did the 42.2% reduction, it would reduce the town's current $39,549 development charge for a single detached dwelling by $16,610, bringing the new rate for a new single-family home to $22,939. In reviewing, so of the 50.8 million in projects identified, staff believe the projects highlighted in yellow and green on the attached chart to the report, totaling 35 million, could be submitted for potential grant funding under the program. However, most do not meet the criteria in terms of primarily enabling the construction of new housing, shovel-ready, etc. And staff believe that only 2 projects, the pump station and fire equipment totaling 4.7 million, meet the criteria. So while we could apply for all of the projects, given that the majority don't meet the criteria of being shovel-ready and in the category of enabling housing, there is the potential to receive some grant funding, though highly unlikely at the 90% level. Only the pump station project qualifies as a housing enabling infrastructure project, while the others are deemed community infrastructure projects that support the development of complete communities. So we have presented 3 options in the report. One is that we apply for funding under the program based on the 42.2% reduction in development charges with a contribution by the town of 10%. Option 2, don't apply for funding under the program and maintain the town's DC rates. And option 3, apply for funding under the program based on another percentage of DCs as determined by council and based on an alternate contribution rate by the town. And at that, I'll open it up to questions.
Yeah, very interesting. Thank you for a very detailed report. Gotta say, it's great to have very experienced senior management when something like this comes along so they can sift through the fine print and kind of figure out what's what. So thanks for that. Questions and comments? Linda.
Comment. I'm totally against this. There's nothing in it for CP, and if we could reduce the DCs by a little bit, that'd be great, but it's all in or nothing. Reducing or even eliminating development charges wouldn't solve the housing crisis facing Ontario. When development DCs are cut, it significantly lowers upfront costs for home builders. This increases the number of viable construction projects, but deprives towns and cities of revenue used to build essential infrastructure. Examples, sewers, roads, community centers related to that growth. While it lowers the developer's per unit costs, it primarily increases builder profit margins. Economists, including those at Canada Mortgage and Housing, note that cutting charges alone is not a cure-all for housing affordability without broader supply and land use reforms. If the lost revenue is not fully covered, municipalities are forced to either borrow heavily or pass the tax burden for new infrastructure onto existing property owners. And in this case, there's no guarantee of a dime because of the way the program is structured. The one growth infrastructure project that we have that meets the requirement of being shovel-ready would be a long shot for funding and wouldn't come near the replacing the overall revenue costs. Slashing municipal development charges would help spur building in some of Ontario's most expensive markets, like the GTA, but those cuts wouldn't be enough to fix the affordability gap on their own. They're just going to increase building more unaffordable homes. And the process the province is set up for funding pits municipality against municipality. And if there was a silver bullet to fix the housing situation we're in, we'd all know about it and we would be on our way to solve the current housing situation.
Thank you, Linda. Mark, go ahead.
Like my fellow councillor Sakaspina, this is going to be a comment, and I'm going to keep this on a business level because what's being offered is not compatible for Carleton Place at all. If we were to reduce our DCs by 42%, $16,000 for an average single family home, we know we have about 2,500 homes in the queue already that are in the process, planning, permits, etc. That represents $40 billion. As a councillor elected to protect and do best by the residents of Carleton Place, I cannot go forward in applying for a DC for grants that may get us $4.7 million back. The math just doesn't work. Unfortunately, This council and the councils prior to us have done an exceptional job in planning and putting things in place so we can afford to do it the proper way where growth pays for growth. I will not support an opportunity that's not guaranteed of losing $30 million that will have to be paid for taxpayers for future funding. So I am in full agreement of not going forward with the funding strictly from the economics and the business side of it. We keep doing what we're doing, which is planning, saving, and doing right by our residents today and tomorrow.
Thank you, Mark. Jeff, go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I agree with what's been said already. Again, I looked at the details of this program and I felt like the guy who had installed his heat pump 6 months before the government announced a subsidy program to pay for that heat pump. The reality is Carleton Place is already doing the work that this program is designed to incentivize. And it kind of sucks for us, but it's an opportunity that's just not there for us to take. In fact, Carleton Place is already doing one better than this program offers, is we've already reduced our development charges for affordable housing. This program offers zero incentive. There's no distinguishing between affordability or the type of housing that it's meant to subsidize. We've already received significant funding to go towards our water treatment and our sewage treatment plants. Those subsidies have already lowered the development charges because we've received that public money. So our development charges have already been lowered because through public subsidy and lowered the cost, the impact of our water treatment, our water system expansion. And we're going one further by lowering our development charges on builders that want to build affordable housing. We're waiting to see more people take advantage of that one. So I would recommend moving with option 2. I would support option 2. This program, unfortunately, just is not going to benefit Carleton Place or improve or offer us any incentive to improve what we're already doing. Thanks.
So we have an offer to move option 2, but we'll continue around the table until we come back to it. Dana, go ahead.
Thank you. It seems my fellow councillors have done similar research too. I have. Everything I've read on this, it will not benefit Carleton Place. We're not in a place to take advantage of this. We've already planned growth pays for growth. We've said it like a mantra for years and years, and we've got the documents to back it up. I think it's kind of ironic. It's on the same agenda as our DC charges study because we've done our homework and we are planning for the future. And this just isn't going to benefit us. There is no guarantee that this is going to drop housing prices anywhere. It's not built into the formula. And not only did we reduce our development charges on affordable housing, we don't have any. If people want to build affordable housing in Carleton Place, they are welcome to come do so. And we invite them to do so free of development charges for longer than 3 years. I would second your option 2 motion because this just isn't going to help us at this time.
We have a mover and seconder for option 2, but again, we'll come back to that. Sarah, go ahead.
I feel like everyone's already said it, and I'm over here cheering. But we have done our homework. We have comprehensive development charge studies. The very definition of comprehensive is complete and including all or nearly all elements for those that are wondering. So unlike a 2-week turnaround grant, we know where our numbers come from, and they prioritize affordable housing and that missing middle housing. So that was identified in the housing study that was done at the county. So all of our studies point that we are on the right path. We are doing the right things to be responsible both now and in future to our residents and to the community. And there is no benefit to us whatsoever to proceed with this program. So I also support option 2.
Thank you very much. Yes, no, you good? Oh, that's right. Sorry. I just figured we were going to go around to everybody and I forgot he was out of this one. Okay, so we've heard from everybody. I echo, everyone's comments. I have some in-depth things I'd love to discuss about why this method was chosen, but no reason to get into it here. So option 2, mover Jeff, seconder Dana. Any other questions or comments based on that? All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. And the mayor is back. Okay. We are on to item H, 6H, Just Good Compost with Diane. Suggested motion that council approve a 50% subsidy rate for households that sign up for an annual subscription to the Just Good Compost program, and that the subsidy apply to all new annual subscriptions in the 2026 and onwards. And I'm not going to get a mover and seconder because we're doing things reverse now. So go ahead, Diane.
So further to the report on the, I think it was May 12th agenda, Councillor Hinton and I met and obtained some statistics from Just Good Compost. So what we found out was that in 2025, there were 145 annual subscriptions with the town's subsidized rate of $75 a household. In 2026, at the beginning of this year, 94% or 136 of those 145 households renewed their annual subscription. And to date, in 2026, 16 new households have signed up for a total of 152 subscriptions for 2026. I believe, and so does Councillor Hinton, that a 94% renewal rate is excellent and indicates that households are renewing their annual subscriptions regardless of a subsidy to do so. So rather than proceeding with the previous report's recommendations of extending annual subscriptions, in order to increase the households signing up to the program, it's recommended that the subsidy rate and onwards for new households that sign up for an annual subscription be increased to 50% of the $275 annual subscription rate, or $137.50. This subsidy rate would only be effective in the first year of the program that households would sign up for the program. So this year we included $25,000 in the budget for the program. And if we did increase the subsidy rate for all of 2026, it would mean that we could add 181 new households to the number of households that renewed for 2025, and we would have well over 300 households in the program. So we recommend that the subsidy rate be increased to 50% for 2026 and onwards.
All right. Questions and comments? Really? Dana?
Thank you for doing the work, Councillor Hinton. I agree with you. Reducing the subsidy to get new people on board is a good idea, because once they're on board, they will continue to do it. It's a great program. I see they've put their signs out already this last week with pickup. So look around to your neighbors and see who's already doing it and ask them if you have any questions. But yeah, the more people we get on board, the better. So I like this idea.
Anyone else? Mayor Randall.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. Thank you, Councillor Hinton, for the time and efforts you put into the report. I disagree with your findings, and respectfully, which I highlighted last meeting. I try to be as fair as possible across the board. I think that the 94% renewal rate is excellent. I also want to state that I think this program does great things for the community. I do want to see as many people get on this program as possible. I am in favor of the 25,000. I'd probably be in favor if I was to come back next year and represent the community in some capacity. If given that opportunity, I'd be in favor of renewing that $25,000. But I disagree that we should be doubling it and leaving people out. To my knowledge, Mississippi Mills, I think, has 600 people or thereabouts on their program. Don't subsidize it a bit. I don't know what the reason is that Carleton Place doesn't agree with recycling and composting and at the rates that our neighbor municipality do. I think that that the original idea that was thrown around last meeting, that we would do it over a period of time to show that the people that got in on the ground floor saw some benefit moving forward. But doubling this to me just seems unfair moving forward, because if we do this again next year, I don't know that that would be the same plan. If we even get the $25,000, because I don't know that all counselors, should they come back, or new counselors may agree with that program. But I think this program's awesome. I want everybody to sign up for it. I would be in favor of increasing that number slightly, but also benefiting the existing users that, again, got in on the ground floor. But thank you for the efforts, and I would turn this one down, but I really want everybody to jump on board. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I will say a piece here. I don't feel like this is the right move to entice new people. I think I would like to see more of a front-ended subsidy that decreases over time. And if people feel that it's a valuable service, they continue with it and continue to pay. I'm not gonna vote against it. But when we discuss this at budget time again, I might bring up something like that, where you have a front-ended subsidization that is higher, that decreases over time to try to get more people enticed. But for the time being, I'll let this percolate as intended. So any other questions or comments? Oh, Mark, go ahead.
Feels as though I should comment on this while I was working in putting this together. So I did take some time and speak with the owner of the company as well to get his input on what was happening in Carleton Place. And he is in 100% agreement in increasing the subsidy level for new homes will increase the intake into the program. I argued this 2 years ago that I didn't think $75 was meaningful enough, but a 94% renewal rate, people were renewing, not asking and not thinking and not part of an additional subsidy. They loved the program. So how do we get more people onto that program? Because quite frankly, there's only 16 new households in 2026 with it. So if we can get 181 with the support of the ownership of this business who believes this is the right tack to take with it, and the 94% renewal rate on people who started participating in the program in 2025, I strongly, strongly believe this is the right way to increase people using the product. I have the product, I use the product, I renew the product, and will continue to. Things change, and we've talked about this, Mayor Randall, where pricing structures change based on economics, based on volatility, based on supply and demand. And I think that's why I'm suggesting at this point, based on supply and demand and volatility of the program, of why it's now needed a higher subsidy than it has in the past.
Would you like to move the motion?
I certainly would love to move the motion.
Sorry, go ahead. So we'll wait on that. Go ahead.
I'll second the motion, even though I'm voting against it, because I believe in the program so much. I too am a user. You know this. I disagree with everything you just said, respectfully. I too have talked to the owner. If truth be told, the reason we have this program is because I originally talked to the owner on Earth Day 3 years ago and brought the darn program here. I believe in the program. I think how we're funding it is wrong. And I also support the $25,000. So please, everybody sign up, take the 150 that the council is about to give you, and get on board, because I think it's a great, great program.
Plus tax.
Whatever that number is.
So we have a mover and a seconder. Any other comments at this point? All in favor? And it's carried. Any opposed? There we go. Just to be noted. Moving on. Oh, look at that. We're done all our reports. That's great. New and other business. No one's got a surprise notice of motion. That's great. Don't do it. Committee board and organization update. Suggested motion, the library board minutes dated April 15th, 2026 be received. Mover and seconder, please. Mark and Linda, all in favor, and that's carried. Information listing. We have 3. Suggested motion, the information listing dated June 9th, 2026 be received. I can't talk anymore. Jeff and Dave, Toby, all in favor, and that's carried. And we're going to move into closed session at 7:34. Suggested motion that the committee moved into closed session at 7:34 to discuss matters subject to the Municipal Act, Section 239, 2C, proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, items 1 and 2. F, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, item 1, and that the following persons be permitted to participate in the meeting: Diane Smithson, CAO, for both items, and Diana Knight for item 1. Mover and seconder, please. Sarah and Linda, all in favor of moving into closed session? That's carried. Thank you.
Diane, can you turn off the staff camera and your camera, please?
Let me know when you're ready. Go ahead.
Sorry, the Rysam report is that staff direction was provided in closed session for both items.
Fantastic. Adjournment. Suggested motion, the meeting be adjourned at 8:03 PM. Mover and seconder, please. Sarah and Linda, all in favor. Carried. Thank you, everybody.